presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
So what is going on? Glad you could join us here Thursday, July 11th, a date that will always mean something special to both Shep and I. We'll get to that momentarily. A lot of great memories, 30 years of WDFN. Yes, we'll get into that. Shep, I got something for you that I know you can relate to. So as soon as we're done here today, I am taking my daughter to the airport to drop her off to go on a trip to Japan with one of her friends, with her BFF.
Well, it helps to have a dad with money. I mean, it's just, you can see it oozing out. I mean,
there we
the
go.
way he dresses. I mean, if you walk, seriously, just walk behind Sean Baligian because the paper's just falling out. You can just pick it up. He won't even care. He'll just go, keep it, keep it. But it's a 20, sir. It's all right. I got another one. I got plenty where that comes from. Must be nice.
As you know, many years ago, I planted just a whole orchard of money trees. So
obviously they bloomed. Yeah.
And then there's some ticket trees, you know, when all the people would call the radio station, hey, can you get me some tickets to the Tiger game? Of course I can. Where do you want to sit? You know?
Hey, listen, your daughter goes to Japan. I can send my daughter to Gary, Indiana. I guess it's good to live in the Baligian household. Good for you.
Okay, like all jokes aside, all right. Like here's what's going on. Number one, she said that she wanted to pay for it mostly. That's number one. Number two, she's 19. Like, Shep, do I like the idea? I'll tell her right now. Hey, Lauren, I don't like the idea that you're going to Japan. But you know, as a parent, Shep, like you're 19, she's picking up a lot of the tab, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, what are you supposed to say? I don't like it. Like, I openly, I'm going to tell her that again when I get upstairs.
I suppose you could find a safe, or what you would consider a more comfortable place for you that costs around the same amount of money, and make that as a suggestion. I'm sure you and Kristen have already done that. You know, she lives under your roof. She's 19, but you can do as a parent what you think is best. I still think you have that negotiable navigational leeway, don't you? I mean, come on, Sean, let's go. Grow something and say, if you don't like it, then you're not going. Damn it, let's go.
My house, my rules. That's what
come on. That. Why don't you turn into your father for a minute and just say,
I hope the Yakuza just slices and dices you. That's what your mouth deserves. I can hear my dad saying some.
You know, Shohei Ohtani plays here. Okay. So let's get that straight.
Yeah, so she's taken off to Japan for the next 10 days. Like she loves the Japanese culture. I don't really know how it started or whatever. And she's like, I want to go to Japan. You know, I'm picking up the bill mostly myself, and you know, have a blast. You know,
go one place. I mean, like not when you're 19. When I was 19, going to Westland was great. But right now, where would you go?
That I haven't been.
Yes. Please don't say the Bell Center.
No, Germany,
Angel Stadium.
Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Germany, Austria, Switzerland. I just want to frolic through the hills singing Edelweiss and talk about the hills being alive with the sound of music. I really, more than any. No, honestly, I've always really and truly, I've always wanted to go to that part of Europe, and so that would be it. Yeah, I mean,
been to Germany. Yeah. Interesting when I said I think Canadian beer is better than German beer. That didn't sit real well with people, but I get it. I get it going to Germany. I think they've got some phenomenal cities with so much history. So I totally understand.
Yeah. You?
Greece.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I think I'd like to go to Greece. I'd like to take my entire family to Greece is what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Stay there for a couple of weeks and just take it all in. Supposedly just breathtaking. So
yeah,
that would be it. Yeah.
No, you know what?
Outside the U.S. So the place I'd like to go in the United States that I have yet to been to is Montana. That's where I want to go.
I've never been to Montana either. I've never been.
Let's you and I saddle up some horses, and go.
And you know what? At the end of the day, Shep, I think guys like you and I, we'd probably fit in there. It's just,
Oh,
like
right.
just
Without using the LeBron James phrase at the end of the day, but absolutely, I think we'd fit in there just fine.
have the smoker on the range. Are you kidding me? I could butcher up the cattle myself. Oh, that'd be
You
unbelievable.
could, at some point in the night when I'm sleeping, you'd probably take that hot poker and brand me. And just say, it was just a joke. I don't know what the problem is.
Good stuff. No, you know what? Looking forward to it. Shep, can you believe it though? All jokes aside, 30th anniversary of WDFN. It's incredible. I was thinking about this morning. I mean, it has been about 13 years since I worked there, and it just doesn't even seem that long. It was the fall of 2011 when I finally said enough. I can't do this anymore, and really, legitimately, that's what it came down to. And I mean, no disrespect, but you get to the point where it's just like, what are we even doing here? And as time has gone on, there's the time honored thing. You tend to remember the good things more than the bad things. And I would say 100% true with me. All the frustration, all the beating my head against the wall, all of that stuff. It's so far back in the rear view mirror. I tend to remember all the good times and the special camaraderie at that place. I think that's one thing that we had in common when we talked to the people that we did a few weeks back. And certainly I know you've commented on that many times, that there was a certain camaraderie about that place that honestly, I haven't seen that at any other place.
I agree 100% with that. There's a few words that come to mind for me. One is impact. The amount of impacted people from that station and the people at that station still blows my mind when I hear people talk about it. I just ran into two people yesterday who you and I used to work with at DFN. And it's amazing how big the media, radio, TV, both of which you and I do, is so vast, and yet it can be so small.
Yeah.
So impact is a word. Camaraderie is a really good one. I don't think I have ever worked anywhere where the camaraderie is as tight and, for the most part, honest as it was there. I'm not going to say we're all best buddies. I'm not going to say we're all friends and we still keep in touch
For the most
with
part.
one another. But while there, I really felt like these people are the same guys I grew up with in high school,
Right.
who are my dearest friends to this day, or even in grade school. I would look around and say, he's like this guy, he's like that guy. These are the people I enjoy being around. So impact, camaraderie, of course, and a togetherness, a togetherness and joy that you had doing your job.
Yeah.
Part of the reason you and I don't miss it now is because it was starting to feel like a job at the end. It never, and I can honestly say this, it never felt like that for the majority of the time I was there. I never regretted, going into doing the key and going into the side door. Never. At the very end, it was, the scene in Seinfeld where George is walking up the steps because he's back with Susan and he's realizing, oh my God, I can't believe I went back with her. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Walking up those stairs to the second level and you're going, here we go again. We're doing the same stuff that nobody in this building cares about. That's what struck me.
When it became a job, and I mean that, when it was just a job and it was just something I did, I knew it was time to go. And it was, for me, and this is something you and I talked about. It was before Killer passed for me. I was done. I openly admitted I was done. I think you knew that. I know management knew that because I told them ahead of time that I was going to go do something else. The funny thing is, at the time, I didn't even know what. It was just like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know what I don't want to do anymore. But I couldn't agree with you, Shep. I looked forward to going to work.
Yep.
I looked forward to, especially when I was in middays, I looked forward to dropping my son off at the elementary school and then racing to the fan to do the show, whether it was Marty was my producer or Doug was my producer, I looked forward to, hey, oh my gosh, Mita's coming up in a week, you know, and all the work that the people behind the scenes, Christine Galasso or Tim McCullum or whoever the case may be, all the work that they put into it. That's the stuff that you can't put a price tag on that. And you know, guys like you and I always had other gigs going on.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
We all and you know what? Sometimes I couldn't do like the Lions post-game show, or I couldn't do ice time. And there was no shortage. Most people, not everybody, most people, if you ask them to do something extra, would just go, yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't a job. It was, wait a second. Wait, are you telling me I get to go on the air at 8:00 tonight, even though I already did a show, and I get to be geeky about hockey for an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what was so cool about that thing, man.
Yeah. That's what I loved most about it. You're right. We had other gigs, but that was still a special place. There's not many places you work where someone's doing something, you go, man, I really wish I was doing that.
Yeah.
You know, if it meant extra work. You know, everybody strives to, I hope everybody strives to be, you know, a bigger part of their company's success. But there, what it was is I just got done with my shift. Most people say, I want to go home. Oh my God, this just broke. I wish I could be talking about that. Instead, he is.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You couldn't wait to not just give your opinion, but hear someone else's opinion who you respected or you wanted to debate. That's the thing I loved most about it. I really did. I'll never forget there's the Sean line, never forget. One of the mornings we were talking about the Lions, and it was Jamie and Brady and me. And Brady pops on, he goes, I just don't know why they play cover 3. And Jamie looks at me like, uh-oh, he just opened that door. And so I opened my mic and I said, what's cover 3? And he says, well, you know, I said, no, you went there. I want to hear what cover 3 is. Don't be spewing football. So it was a great, not anger, but it was a good, strong debate on what we should be learning, what we should know before we say and all this other stuff. And some of the best stuff was when our mics were off and we were in commercial break.
No.
And then suddenly a door opens. It's like, okay, now let's go at it. And we go at it even better. And then after that, we're good. No big deal. That was some of the fun stuff, some of the best times I've ever had in broadcasting.
Somebody just tweeted us a picture of somebody putting some butter on some cornbread as well. And it is, Shep, I like, honestly, and I remember talking to Rona, and it was amazing to me how many people talked about mail-in day, like after the fact. And it was one of those things, you don't know it. Like I'm not some super intelligent person, newsflash, okay, who thought to myself, well, everybody can relate to something like this. But yeah, we can all relate to something like that, man. Right before Christmas, you just want to go home and be with your family and spend as much time as you can with your kids before Santa comes. So whether you're sitting in a cubicle, whether you're sitting on the line, if you're listening to it, we're all living through that. And that's the way that I feel. And I know it sounds cheesy and it sounds cliche. When I go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever the case may be, you know what? There are 20 years worth of people that we've all grown up together. We, like, seriously, I've watched that guy get married. I've watched that guy have kids. I've watched this guy become a grandfather. And Shep, it wasn't just our group. It really wasn't. It was our entire listenership. I mean, we all kind of grew up together, and you can't put a price tag on that.
No, I agree. But there's only one grandfather. But here's the thing I really remember more than anything else. And that is, you know, like you said, the camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to other people who work at other stations, they don't have that. It's punch in, we're done.
Yep.
And you looked at our station and it was punch in, hey, you want to do this? Or it's, hey, I'm just calling to say what's going on. Did you see what happened? And we'd have conversations on the phone in addition to all the conversations we'd had on the air, in addition to all the things we talked about in the bullpen. What I really wish, and I remember asking some of the uppity ups, I said, why don't we blow out? If folks can kind of envision this, we had a couple of we had our radio station. Here's the booth. Here's the producer's booth. Here's a VO booth, and here's the anchor booth. So really, there's 4 oversized closets, if you can picture that. There's a hallway, and then you can go right, you can go left. And in that left area, folks, was what we called a bullpen. That's where a lot of people had their cubicles. And if they wanted to do some work there and prepare for a show, that's where they would do it. Outside and around the corner, besides the bathroom and the bubbler, if you will, was more cubicles. I remember telling the uppity ups, blow that out, put in a pool table, put in a foosball table and a dartboard. It's a way you bring people together who are already close together, but you have some of the best. You don't need pre-production meetings. You don't need to sit down with a piece of paper and write down what you're going to talk about at 6 o'clock and then 6:18 and then 6:35. What you do is you start playing pool, you start talking about it, and then boom, suddenly you got a show.
It finds itself. You got it.
Right.
I used to.
They listen to me in that regard an awful lot. Not.
Yeah, I used to love, to me, like camaraderie, culture, things like that. You can't put a price tag on it. I used to love you'd be in doing like updates or whatever, or you did your show beforehand, and we would talk about how we were hungry. And I would just say, hey, we're hungry. Can someone bring food? Do you know how often people would bring food?
Oh, all the time.
It wasn't just a little bit. It was a lot of bit. And it was just like, that was my way of saying, hey, boys, let's take care of each other. Let's get some food and let's have a good time and eat and everything. And
it was beautiful.
One of the things that I really missed, I remember talking to Dom about this, and I'm a big fan of Dom. I want to make that crystal clear.
Well, explain to people who don't know who Dom is. And by the way, we were always jealous when you always got food and we didn't. But can you please explain to people who Dom is?
Dom was our operations manager, and the way that
Tom
Theodore was his name, and he got it. In my mind, he got it. There were things that he was hamstrung on that I appreciate. And Shep, I'm the type of person I'm gonna mention the people I appreciate. If I don't mention somebody, then you can read between the lines. But I don't have anything negative to say about anybody. So, it's the old adage, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But I remember talking to Dom. One of the things that I think we really missed on was something that Chris just brought up. Chris said, I remember the trivia contest DFN would have all around town at the bars. My brother would go. I wasn't old enough. When we stopped going around town and having the appearances, we lost some of the charm that made us us. And I think that's an era gone by. And it's sad for me because that was half of the fun for me was, hey, guess what? You're going out to Brighton. You're going to go hang out at this place in Brighton. Hey, you're going to Shelby Township. Hey, you're going down to Trenton. Right. I loved doing that. And just talking to people and getting to know people and everything. And somewhere along the way that stopped. And I remember like begging Dom. I said, hey, listen, it's some extra scratch in my pocket. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, trying to say that I'm doing this for that camaraderie reason alone. But that's the difference between us and other places. And unfortunately, the business changed, Shep, and they just decided they didn't want to do that anymore.
It made it made people feel like we were one of them.
Yep.
As simple as that. I didn't do it as often as you did. I thought it was always one of the charming traits about the philosophy and the station and the people who were there. And I don't think you can lose that. I don't want to say we got too big for our britches there. That's an old saying, or too a little bit pious. But sometimes you forget what got you to a certain place and what made us as appealing to people. And number one in certain demographics is that was part of it. And then we lost it. So shame on them, but good for us for all that we did and all the people did to make that station such a success.
Yeah, it was a blast. I will remember that fondly for the rest of my days. And thank the good Lord. I remember the good stuff. I really do. I mean, the bad stuff is way back in the rearview mirror. Chris, Sean had the cornbread lady singing cornbread. Yes. Ray said, I did not know this. Did you know this? Ray said, Greg Russell said, quote, is this thing on? That was the first thing heard on WDFN.
I do remember that. That's not the first thing I remember hearing, but I can tell you this. I remember vividly, I was in my basement working out in my house in Berkeley when DFN first came on the air. And I remember saying to myself, I want to hear what this sounds like.
Yeah.
This is new to all of us. Let's hear what this sounds like. And I was working at a competing radio station at the time. So I listened intently to hear not just who was on the air, but what was being discussed and how they went about it, trying to learn different approaches toward different stories and different topics. As anything, the first go around is not always the most successful go around. You have to kind of tweak it a little bit. But that's interesting that Ray remembers that part of what Greg Russell said. I don't know if it was from an update or if that was the first day or the first thing when he first turned it on. But I do remember that quote.
Wow, that's Shep. Like you, I remember vividly where I was. I was driving in my old 1986 Chevette that probably had 500,000 miles on it and made a noise. You would hear me coming from 3 miles away. Oh, Baligian's coming over. And I turned on the radio station. I was driving to school. I was literally driving to school. And I heard that radio station and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest idea known to man. And much like you, I heard people on there that I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And then you heard people like, okay, this is fun and everything. But as a kid anybody who knew me growing up, I had a one-track mind, period. Yeah. One-track mind. I mean, it was sports. It was Saturday night. Where's the party? Baligians at home watching hockey night in Canada. I mean, really, that's a true story. And I vividly, I remember thinking to myself, man, how cool would it be to work at that radio station? And a few years later, when Greg Henson runs into me at a Tigers game and says, why aren't you working at a radio station? It was, dude, are you kidding me? I was 28 years old going, are you serious? Can I go work there? And, the rest is history, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty good stuff, man. Pretty good stuff. There was a topic this morning on an article I read yesterday that I thought of you. Peyton Manning came out and said, if there's one player I could throw to who I never played with or could have thrown to, who would it be? And it was Raymond Berry. And I thought that's a topic that would just take off when you and I did shows at DFN, because you could localize it. You could play so many different people, and there's so many other opportunities with so many different players. Who would be some of those players? Because for me, at the collegiate level, it'd be Kirk Gibson. Now, there is some selfishness there because I like Gibby. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great teammate, but he was a phenomenal football player. I know people remember the 84 World Series home runs, one off, especially off Goose Gossage, the throw to Lou Whitaker, who then throws to third to get Kurt Bavacqua. They remember the 88 World Series home run too, of course, off Dennis Eckersley, but as a football player at Michigan State as a first-team All-American and would have been probably a top 5 NFL pick. I didn't get a chance to see him in person. I would have absolutely loved to have seen him play in person. That's the first guy who came to my mind. How about you?
Locally,
doesn't have to be locally. Doesn't have to be locally.
Bobby Orr. I would have loved to have seen Bobby Orr. The Bobby Orr that I saw, I remember this vividly, Shep, because I was little and my old man was going, "It is the best defenseman you're ever going to see in your life," and everything. And
what about Doug Harvey?
You know what? Seriously, you could say Doug Harvey, no doubt, but Bobby Orr. I would have loved to have seen Bobby Orr in all his glory. Locally, boy, there are honestly, there are so many. I would have loved to have seen Al Kaline. He just seemed like such a classy dude, like across the board. I would have loved to have seen Al Kaline. Obviously, Gordie Howe. I saw Gordie Howe as a kid, but it was 51-year-old Gordie Howe,
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a great topic because I think I've always respected that about you as well, because you're, not to sound cheesy, like a historian of the games. It isn't just about what's going on. You know, you can sit back and talk about this guy from the 60s or the 50s or whatever. And I think that's a great topic because there are so many guys you hear the legend of that guy, like the legend of Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain or whatever. And you know, how real is the legend compared to the way things really are? And
Right.
we turn into our fathers. We do, whether we like to admit it or not. We turn into our fathers, and I'm sure people are sick and tired of me pontificating on Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky or, you know, let's face it, Michael Jordan, because there are people today that are convinced that LeBron James is the best, and then you can't tell them otherwise. And guys like you and I come in and we sound like, are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? Michael Jordan. Well, I know how much you love Michael Jordan, but no, all jokes aside, you know what I'm saying there. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I had that topic, or I had that discussion with Mike O'Hara one time about basketball, and Mike O'Hara saw Wilt Chamberlain in person, and he swears that he's the best basketball player he's ever seen. So I love learning from people who have seen other athletes I never saw. So you bring up some great examples like Gordie Howe for one. I would have loved to see Gale Sayers play, and even though the irony there is, he only played 7 years.
That's my dad.
In his last 2 years, 2 games. So 4 total games in his last 7 years. If I would have told you that a guy played 65 games in his career, rushed for under 5,000 yards, only had 10 touchdowns or more once in his career, but he'd be a Hall of Famer, would you have believed it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But that's exactly who Gale Sayers is.
Yep.
Amazing. Yep. So I just think it's an intriguing topic. And what intrigues me even more is that Peyton Manning thought about Raymond Berry. He could have said Jerry Rice. He could have said Lynn Swann, right? He could have said Fred Biletnikoff or Cliff Branch or Sammy White or, you know, Bobby Moore, who turned into Ahmad Rashad, guys like that. He went way back. I don't know if it's a tribute to, you know, Johnny Unitas, who he famously Manning wanted to wear the black high tops to remember Johnny Unitas when he passed. And the NFL turned into your dad and said,
you know, we do have rules here. You can only wear your socks so high. You got to wear your pants so low, and you can't wear black high tops, even though you want to do the very best job of, you know, paying ode to one of the greatest players our league has ever had. Understand and read the rules.
You have to include "you're dumb" in there somewhere too. Like my
That's
dad
understood. That's understood.
What I don't have to ever. Everybody listens to your dumb mouth. You know. Let me.
It's so funny when you do your dad. Even though my dad didn't sound like that, there are certain phrases my father had. I told this to Jack Morris one time. Morris said, after we were on a commercial break, and he said, "Hey, how about that little nugget I had on this?" And I said, "Raise the flag." And he went, "I don't understand. Raise the flag." I said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I got to explain real quick. When I was a kid and I'd pick up after the dog, or I'd cut the grass, or I'd trim the bushes, all the stuff that dads don't want to do today that they tell their kids to do, that I had to do. I would come in, Dad, just cut the grass and bagged it. Dad just emptied the baskets, took out the garbage." My dad's response, "Good for you. Raise the flag."
Yeah.
You want a medal?
I got to tell you a story about Killer and my dad in a second along those lines. But first, let me tell you about our friends at Legacy. Do you know thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners, they are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. They helped out my family big time. They will help yours out as well. How? Well, they've helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you and save you money. Boy, isn't that important, this situation that we're in? Chances are, if you haven't checked our policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. Do yourself a favor. Call my friends at Legacy Partners. They will take care of you as they've taken care of me with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Give them a call, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com. So my dad, all those years, Shep, would listen to the show, and he knew like how I talked about him and everything. And he came to an event once, and he told me ahead of time, he goes, I can't wait to meet this killer. I can't, because you know what? I'm going to put on my charm. And I'm like, oh, Dad,
You have some?
you're like Prince Charming. Boy, you're gonna sway everybody. And my dad went up and tried to be so nice to Killer. And it was like, Shep, God rest his soul, it was painful. And I'm giggling and you know, all that stuff. And he walks up proudly to me afterwards and he goes, you see what I did? I charmed the pants off him. I kid you not, this is a true story. Killer calls me later in the day and he goes, dude, like your dad, that was so uncomfortable. He was trying way too hard. So I called my dad. I go, you fooled nobody. Like, this is what you are. You are a retired police officer who hates everything. Like, it's okay. I've accepted it. Let's all move on with our life. You hate
Be yourself. Just be yourself.
Pops, like I've learned to like embrace it. It's got, you know what, you're dumb. It's always come back to that, you know. So let me get.
Come on, isn't there a part of you that wanted? There's a part of you that wanted him to go up to Killer and say, you know, you and my dumb son, you got a really crappy show.
How do you deal with that maniac every day? Rob said we missed the games you guys played. I won pick 3 for the Red Wings season opener. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you.
You know, that's a great point. I don't think we do I wish we did more of that. Do you think any of those games, there's a shelf life to everything, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a game that we played that you thought went on too long? And what was it? So, for example, while you think about that, we did something in the morning that I absolutely loved. We did it once in a while, defending the indefensible.
That was a great bit.
Hey, man, I don't do bits. You know, anyway, but you're right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that game because it forced you to take one side or the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was there ever a game you thought that, okay, this gets a little old, let's turn the page and try to find something new?
I don't want to talk about other shows and games. I think pick 3 had a shelf life. I do. It was fun. We did it for a while, and then
explain that to people who don't know what it is real quick.
So basically, I would say Matt Shepard named 3 Tiger infielders, 10, 9, 8, and the whole time, what threw people off was the whole counting backwards.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I would giggle. And then
you would say it out loud. That was the beauty of it. And then I think you had to get a certain amount right, and then you got a prize.
3. Yeah, and then you got so you had to do it 4 times. And if you said a wrong answer or the timer, I would give you a parting gift is dial tone. You would get hung up on.
Yeah. Now, you came up with that idea.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did you come up with that idea?
There was true story that we were doing ice time one night, and this guy called in, and he was bitching about something that I said on the show, and he was like, you could name 3 players on the Dallas Stars. And I said, do you want me to name their 3 goaltenders? Would you like 3 defensemen? Do you want 3 forwards? How do you want? And I actually named their 3 goalies at the time and everything, you know, being the swarmy little wise ass that I was at times. And then I just thought to myself, I said, why don't we do this game pick 3? And I think especially with the advent of everybody having the stuff on their phone in their hand, it was the easiest game to win after a while. And it was just
not when you're saying 10, not when you only give them, and really, Sean, let's be honest, it was more like 9 or 8 seconds with you. 10, 9, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And in case people don't know what the game I was referring to, defending the indefensible, we would say right now, Mark Canna's a better hitter than Ronald Acuna Jr. Go defend it. You got to defend it. Okay, it's impossible to defend, but what you do is just say, well, look, he sees more pitches. He does a really nice job of protecting the zone. He's not as free a swinger, and he's a guy who is very versatile. And then you start going off in these different directions.
Yep.
So you're defending someone, and it's really not a defensible position, but you do your best to defend it.
Yeah.
So those are good games. Really. Good
yeah. Tim said maybe I don't hear about them because I don't listen to them, but I don't think 97.1 has appeared anywhere. We, the listeners, had access to them other than on the radio. That's a good point. Genghis said, man, I miss DFN so much. Yeah, it was a time gone by.
If I said to you right now, if I said that station, which has a completely different format, but if that station went back to sports and we had a similar lineup, we can't have the full lineup, obviously. Do you think people would embrace it, or do you think it would be just background noise because another station, 97.1, is so dominant in the market?
I think it would have a period of time of success for nostalgia purposes.
Okay, well, that's not a good reason why.
And that's not a good reason to do it.
Right. Okay.
That's not a good reason to do it. Oh, Marty, where are they now? Oh, I love doing that.
Oh, good one, Marty. Nice.
I love doing that. That was so we caught up to so many interesting cats. There are things that, like I said, I think pick 3 had its I think it had its time, and it was time to, do some other wacky stuff. And
but you had more than that game. Some of the fun things I always remember is I would leave if I were anchoring, I would leave the door open during a game, and you could hear Marty or Doug Todd or whoever, Spicoli, doing John Klimchuk, whatever producer, and you would hear oh my God, like, where are they now? And somebody would guess completely wrong, and you would hear someone, and let's face it, I mean, the producers helping us with all that stuff, because a lot of them had great ideas. Marty was my producer for a long time, your producer for a long time, helped us with so many different things, but you hear the ha, or you hear a big snort because they were laughing at something.
Yeah.
That's when you know everybody's into it, right? Yeah. It's not just you, it's not just the callers, but it's the other people who are associated with the show.
Prick 3. You guys, gosh. Yeah. Why you people like that? That was still, I'd say at every show, it's like, what are you doing? You're not going to win. I'm giving you like impossible questions. You're not. Name 3 members of the Ottawa Silver Seven. Wait, like, come on. Nobody's going to do that. What the hell's wrong with you? Hey, people would call in. I want a guy prick 3. The name of the show is Prick 3. You're not going to win. I'm being a prick.
I'm being a prick, right? Myself. It might be the most honest show on TV or on radio, I should say.
Hey, if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, let me tell you about my friends, the Handsome Brothers at Wealth Advantage Group. They're located in historic downtown Northville, owned by those 2 guys right there. Over 20 years of industry experience with Mike and Jeff Husak, and they understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life, and they have clients in over 20 states. The investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. Give my pals, I'm also a client, at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 an opportunity to help you out as well, or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Where are they now? Favorite? Doug English. That was awesome for me. I loved Doug English. I revered him as a kid, Shep. And so when I talked to him, and he was, I got the impression from him, he was almost kind of taken aback that he didn't understand like how big he was. That was the impression that I got from him, that he didn't really understand that there were a lot of kids like me that were just like, wow, Doug English, Silver Rush. The drops were classic. Oh, we could sit here for the next 5 hours talking about some of those dumb drops.
Yeah, those are phenomenal. I think that's what really helped the show too, because it helped establish what we have done, how we can make fun of one another, how we made fun of ourselves, and then dropping in at certain spots just took us in a completely different direction sometimes. And you know damn well people are driving and they just start laughing their ass off
Yeah.
at it.
Marty said Bobby Abear, he never stopped talking. That was a bit I did for probably the next month where, hey, let's check in with Bobby Abear. And like we pretended like Bobby Abear was still talking. Just dumb stuff like that. Had DFN been on FM, it would have stomped 97.1. There was about, in my mind, a year window for that. And after a year, it was never going to happen. It was never. I think we missed our window, Shep. Would you agree with me? There was probably about a year span where if we moved, and I know from
I thought it was a little longer than that. I probably get this question as much as just about anything regarding radio. Okay, not TV, but anything in the media and radio, I get that probably as much as anything else. And I tell people all the time, look, I get it. I've talked about it. I get tired of talking about it. It's in the past. The people making the decision were not smart. Period.
Yep.
They weren't smart. And I don't know what more you need to know about it. Okay. That was not a decision made by local people, and it wasn't a decision made by any of the talent. It was made by people who do not live in this market. And that's my frustration. My frustration with radio in general, media in general, is it has become one big conglomerate. I think it was much better when companies owned one or two stations. Now they own numerous stations, and it's hurt the listener. Period.
Couldn't agree more.
And these people, if they had a connection to Detroit like we had, if they knew what people wanted, and maybe more importantly, what people deserved, they would have listened to us. The best leaders in life are not always the leaders who make all the decisions. They're the ones who listen to the people who are on the ground, okay? The people who are in there with the fight. And we must have had way too many people in corporate who thought they were the smartest people in the room. They were the second coming to Jim Schwartz, and they didn't listen to the people who matter most in the market.
Shep, the guy who basically deserves a heck of a lot of credit for all the incredible success that 97.1 has had. And I'm being sincere when I say this, like them or not, it is a gargantuan, but literally the person who gets most of the credit told me with his own mouth, if we had moved to FM, that was the end of them. Yeah. Like he said that with his own mouth. Like he told me with his own mouth that was the case. And I think after a while, when they got their foothold and then they got everybody in town, by that point in time, there was nothing our station could have done. By that point in time. Yeah, we got that.
But to your point, and what you've said this before, the thing that offends me is those of us, you and I primarily, who were still at the station, still working hard, still doing our best to make it what it was, or at least carry on the reputation of a hard-working station. For people to just dismiss that is offensive.
It's incredibly offensive.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right either.
I've always, the funny thing about like the ratings, and I've always said I didn't like to talk about ratings and everything. It is amazing to me. I don't give two shits. Pardon my language. I don't give two shits what your perception of what he did or what I did is. I don't care. It's the ratings that talk. And I think for people to kind of just dismiss what we did at DFN round 2,
right?
Well, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. And it's revisionist history, and it's a false narrative. And I had a blast there round 2. I did. I until it got to the point blank where it was like, we're doing this again. I thought we weren't doing this. Well, we are doing this, so it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the routine is, well, if we're not doing it, then let's not do it. But we did it. So let me tell you all about LLC Catering. That's right. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events. You want to hang out in Montana? I'm sure Rick and his gang could find a way. Anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people, All About Catering will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. Do not sweat your next big event. Sometimes you have to shake hands and kiss babies. You can't do it yourself. Let Rick and everybody at allaboutcateringllc.com do it for you. Give them a call at 586-731-1398. That's 586-731-1398 to get your event started. As Nathan said, the best leaders bring in people who know what they don't.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's a quote. I don't know if it was Kirby Smart. One famous coach said, "Great leaders are not the best at everything. They find people who are the best at different things and get them on the same page or the same team." So that's what I thought was lacking from a corporate standpoint when I refer to that.
Tim said, ever feel like 2 sports talk stations is one too many? I don't. I don't. I've seen it work in other markets. I've seen it work for years in other markets. I think the interesting thing about it is you have different personalities with different takes, with different upbringings, with different strengths. They're listen, everybody's got their own strengths and weaknesses, right? I know what I'm really good at. I know what, I need to kind of rely on somebody else in regards and everything. So I've seen it work in other markets. Why not Detroit would be my.
I agree 100%. I would just say, and I used to tell this to management all the time, you've got to have some play-by-play rights.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be something that you own. You're the home of something. It can't be. I think it's bad, and I'm not saying this in bitterness, so I hope people don't take it that way. I think it's horrible that 4 teams are on one station. Not good. And actually, 5 out of the 6, if you count Michigan and Michigan State. You want a balance there. It's just not good. Not that the station doesn't do a good job of carrying those games. They do. I think they lack, some deep pre and post stuff, but overall, they do a fine job. I just don't think it's good for a market. That's all. And I would say that, by the way, if I were working there, I would say that if this were DFN back in the day and we went to FM and we had all 4 teams, I would say that's not a good thing either. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I'm surprised that all those teams are on one network, if you will, and are willing to get bumped to this station and that station instead of someplace that they can truly call home.
Yeah.
We used to have Michigan State, and we used to have the Pistons on DFN. Remember?
Yeah.
And it was good. Won a championship with the Pistons. You and I were part of that parade. But I think there needs to be a little bit more balance in a market.
No, I agree with you. And unfortunately, this is an expensive format. I just don't see another show ever starting again. I really don't. I don't see another station starting again unless
you're right.
dramatically changes with the landscape. I don't see anybody giving that.
100%. It's people don't realize that it's extremely expensive because the number of hosts that you have, the number of producers you have, and the number of people who go out and gather sound, cover games, and on top of that, today, the amount of people you need to contribute to a website and to keep that thing active. It's very costly.
No doubt. Listen, one more thing before we get out of here, and I got to drive my daughter to the airport. Let's talk about our realtor. When it's time to buy a house, sell a house, whatever the case may be, you need to contact the right agent. Who is she? There she is. Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buying, selling, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact somebody that knows the business, and that person is Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, always a pleasure. I have to run out here to take my little girl to
be safe and tell her to be safe, please.
Absolutely, no
Lauren,
doubt.
Be smart, Lauren. Good luck.
Yeah. Let's talk again soon. We'll chat about that. Most importantly, Todd, thank you and everybody out there checking us out. We'll see you. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matcherzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.
Don't say